Alrighty guys, what is going on? Welcome back to the channel. Hope you guys are doing absolutely fantastic. Today guys, we're going to be going over my winners and losers for round one of the 2023 AFL season. I'm going to try and make this a thing I do every week. Essentially, yeah, just going over my biggest learnings, takeaways, highlights, winners and losers, that sort of thing out of the rounds. And yeah, hoping this is going to be successful and that you guys sort of enjoy this thing. Just a little recap, basically, hopefully no longer than 10 minutes that we do every single week. So yeah, let's get straight into it. Just before we do that though, guys, 99% of you guys are not subscribed that are watching the channel. So if you are watching, make sure you go ahead and subscribe, hit that red button. If I put up some garbage you don't like, you can obviously unsubscribe just like that. You are not obligated to stay subscribed whatsoever. All right, so number one's going to go to the opening game of the round, and Carlton and Richmond obviously have opened the round for the last 6 or 7 years now. I think since 2013 or something. And usually this game is absolutely banging, fast-paced, end-to-end footy, free-flowing footy, high-scoring games. But this was one of the flattest and most scrappy opening games I think we've seen in an opening round, really, since I can remember. Probably this is the worst opening game these two teams have played since I can remember, at least. Obviously ending in that draw. But it wasn't even the draw that was the worst part about it. You know, if it was a high-scoring, high-paced game, a draw happens, okay? It's not always the worst thing, but I think it was just the way the draw ended up, and especially for Carlton fans, absolutely bottling it. For the third time in a row, you had the Melbourne game, the Collingwood game, and now this Richmond game where Carlton were in a winning position within 2 minutes of the final siren, and they bottled it once again. Richmond fans, well, I mean, they'd probably be happy that they somehow walked away with 2 points because they should not have won this game. And it looks like the 2022 Carlton has not gone away yet. So Carlton, you are one of my losers for round one. I think it's pretty self-explanatory here. That is an absolute L for Carlton fans and the Carlton in general. Now, there's only one stat that really goes in the favor of Carlton here. The last time, a draw happened in the first round was 1972, and the only positive to take away from that is also the year that Carlton won the flag. So, let's see what happens there. Maybe this will come back and actually be one of the best things that happened to Carlton this year. I highly, highly doubt it, but that is something to keep in mind. Number two here is got to go to the Richmond predictors and all the people that have Richmond up in the top 4 and contending for a premiership. I mean, seriously, I never really bought the hype around the Richmond, going straight back up to the top again. I understand that they recruited Tim Taranto and Jacob Hopper, but some people just seem to think that those two players were like Brownlow status, or, two players that were just going to elevate Richmond straight up to the top. I never seen it, and it just blew my mind to see people making this prediction. Now, don't get me wrong, it's so early in the season, and Richmond, may well still be up there by the end of the year. But I think you guys need to rethink those predictions, and this really goes out to those people that made that prediction. I mean, I'll say it again, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I think Richmond still are going to fall a little bit more before they do rise again. They've got a great list, and they've got some great players that they've picked up, but they've also lost an absolute wealth of experience, premiership players, that sort of stuff. And as I said earlier, very, very lucky to be walking away from Thursday night with 2 points and not a loss. So Richmond, absolute L here. Super, probably one of the most highest, expectations coming out of preseason. And I think everybody expected a lot more. All right, so the first winners of this round absolutely has to go to the Pies. I mean, I am a biased Pie supporter. You guys know that. But just in general, I mean, this game was an absolute... It was a ripper. It was one of the best footy matches I think anyone's seen in a long time. I mean, it's not unlike Collingwood nowadays to be in these matches that just go down to the absolute wire. I mean, this game was a back and forth. It had swings and turns all throughout the first 3 quarters, and then the Pies just put the foot down, something that has not been seen from us and what, people didn't expect us to do or weren't sure we could do at all. And that is why we were still doubted so much going into this season. Obviously, early days, anything can happen. So, those people, they're okay for now that made those sort of predictions, but I don't think it's going to turn out the way a lot of people thought it would. Yeah, this game, just absolutely amazing. High-scoring affair. Just so much drama when it comes to, obviously Ollie Henry going to Geelong, kicking his first goal against us. The more rundown tackle in the square, that was just absolutely brilliant. And then, obviously you've got the normal people like Gary Rowan, Tom Hawkins, and Jeremy Cameron just absolutely destroying our forward line. The other element of this game is, unfortunately, there were a few injuries. Obviously, Jeremy Howe went for that huge spoil, landed on his forearm here, and just absolutely snapped it. That was disgusting. I actually seen that happen right in front of me from up top of the fourth stand at the MCG. But yeah, and then also I think it was Tom Stewart from Geelong slid and I think rolled his knee or rolled his ankle and then did something to his knee. I don't know exactly what it was due to the MCG having that new turf. But yeah, in general, Collingwood and Geelong needs to be the opening game for next year. An absolute W there. All right, number 4 here has got to go to North Melbourne. This game here, North Melbourne and West Coast, I don't think many people expected much from this. But this game, I would say this is probably top 3 of my most enjoyed games over the weekend. Very, very good game. Instantly, you could tell in the first 10 minutes that West Coast and North Melbourne in particular have made a lot of improvements from last year. And I think both of these teams are going to be better than a 2-win side this year. But let's put some credit and give some credit to North Melbourne here, because they have got some young guns and some young kids that North fans should be getting up and about and excited about for the next 3, 4, 5 years. Harry Sheasel, obviously 34 disposals, which was a record for a very long time. I don't think it is the record, but broke a record in the last 10 years or whatever for debutants disposals, 22 kicks, and as well as 631 meters gained. LDU as well, putting in a performance, 34 disposals, 1 goal. And then you cannot forget Nick Larkey, who has the West Coast backline in his pocket. I think he kicked 5 or 6 goals last year as well, and he's done it again this weekend, kicking another 6 goals from a measly small 9 disposals. Absolutely amazing, the performance. And North, I think, very fortunate to get the win there. Could have gone either way. This game went absolute down to the wire as well. Got my tip wrong on this one, so that makes me a little bit disappointed. But yeah, North fans, you guys have got something to look forward to, and North are an absolute winner for the round 1 win there. All right, so number 5 here is an absolute L, and the loser here is the MCG in the AFL. It just has to be spoken about. Numerous players have come out and talked about how poor the conditions are of the MCG. Now, if you didn't know, there was obviously that massive Ed Sheeran concert, over 100,000 people in the G, in the middle, on the grass, in a massive mosh pit, and basically, I think, 80% of the turf had to be replaced. Basically, I guess what the problem here with this is that because the grass is so new and so fresh, it hasn't binded itself into the dirt below, making it a lot weaker. So when players are running, they're making quick turns, stuff like that, jumping on the grass, their knees and their legs just slip down from below them, and has caused already a few injuries this round. Obviously, the main one being Tom Stewart. I think also Sam Doherty from Carlton, he's come out and spoke about it, how he actually thought, this was going to be a dangerous thing, and was surprised that there weren't more injuries. Luckily, I think there was only 2 or 3, which is still terrible. And, players like Tom Stewart, absolutely super unfortunate to get injured by something like that. So super, super poor from the MCG and, just the AFL in general, or the organisers of the Ed Sheeran event. This just cannot happen again or, anymore in the future. They say that they were going to replace the grass anyway, but I think it was done too late to the start of the game and needed, at least a month for the grass to actually properly grow and, bind itself into the other turf that was already there. So MCG, absolute loser for this round. Need to do better. Hopefully next week it gets better for the next games and we don't see any more injuries as a result of this. All right, number 6, Power have got their power back by the looks of things. Very impressive from Port Adelaide on the weekend. I said in my preseason predictions and my preseason tips that they really didn't impress me in the offseason. And I always say this, it's a terrible idea to go off preseason games. But I had to because it was the only thing I had. But yeah, Port Adelaide, they came out of the blocks and absolutely rinsed Brisbane, and their midfield just put on a show. I mean, it was such an even performance throughout their midfields of the likes of Sampal Pepper, Rosie, Miles Bergman. They just had so many great performances. And of course, it was Jason Horne-Francis's first game, and he did very well as well. He had played a great game as well. I think he had 25 disposals, over 400 meters gained. So you see he's already made a massive impact in that Port Adelaide midfield. And hopefully, you know, we'll see how it goes for Port Adelaide. I'm still not fully on board with them because it's only the first game. I mean, Brisbane is obviously one part of it. They didn't show up whatsoever. Don't know what happened there because they were actually one of the stronger teams from the preseason, beating Geelong as well. Obviously, it means nothing now because we know how that turned out. But yeah, Power, absolute winners for this one here. And let's see how they go for the rest of the season. All right, number 7 here has got to go to all the new coaches. Now, the new trio of coaches in 2023 has seen all 3 of them get a win again. So we just need to start tipping new coaches every single time. I told myself this, but I just thought there was absolutely no way, you know, St Kilda was going to get a win over FREO, which obviously happened. But yeah, so Brad Scott, Adam Kingsley, and Ross Lyon. Congratulations to you guys for getting those wins in their first game. And from the future, I think I'm always going to be backing new coaches because it seemed to proven that they just somehow have this, I guess, just godly powers that teams with new coaches have something to prove and just don't lose. So yeah, new coaches, you are the winner for round 1. All right, number 8 here. What an absolute stinker for FREO fans. I was very, very bullish about FREO in my preseason predictions, and I'm really hoping this doesn't come back to bite me because I said I actually was bullish about FREO finishing on the top of the ladder this year, and they had looked so promising last year, obviously being a semi-finalist from last year. But I don't know what's happened here. I mean, this win was absolutely deplorable for FREO. St Kilda, I think, had over 12 injuries and 90% of those players being in their best 22. Jack Billings, Max King, Tim Membry. So many of their key players were out. I mean, it just goes to show, you know, Ross Lyon is absolutely on his game when it comes to coaching. And, you know, maybe St Kilda are actually going to do something this year. I mean, I predicted them to finish 3rd in my preseason predictions. So, I mean, I'm sort of happy in one aspect that this has gone the way it has because I did predict them to finish so highly. But at the same time, FREO, how have you lost that? That is just absolutely mind-boggling and just did not come up to show. I mean, this game wasn't the best, to be said. I mean, it was quite reminiscent and similar to the first game of the rounds being between Carlton and Richmond. Super low scoring affair, super inefficient going inside 50, a lot of just ping-ponging back and forth. It was a very defensive type setup game and a lot of, you know, both teams really struggling to get any goals on the board. And I think FREO actually have ended up with the lowest score for the rounds, you know, with just 52. So yeah, terrible start to the season. I think Justin Longmuir also said in his preseason, in his press conference, sorry, it's an absolute wake-up call. So yeah, FREO, they are under pressure for next week, that is for sure. They've got to bounce back here. So yeah, FREO, absolute losers for that one there. And of course, St Kilda, you were the winners for that game, obviously. But more so than just getting the 4 points there. Alrighty, lastly here, and for number 9, we've got the Bombers absolutely bombing the Hawks. I mean, what an absolute show it was that the Bombers put on. Now, hopefully this doesn't end up being their best performance of the year, or especially, you know, Bombers fans would be hoping for that. But yeah, going into this, I thought it was going to be a close game, and it was a close contest going back and forth. Goal for goal, really. You know, the Bombers would get a few, Hawthorn would strike back and get a few within that first 2 quarters, and then they just started piling on the goals. I mean, those third and fourth quarters, the Bombers just looked to be putting an absolute Mickey on the, or taking the absolute Mickey out of the Hawthorn defenders. So many just fluke goals, snap goals from angles you wouldn't expect. You know, goals running inside of 50. And then obviously McDonald, Tip and Woody went on for the last quarter, I believe. I actually don't know why that happened. Bombers fans, let me know. I'm not sure why, if he got subbed on, if he was a substitute, but I think he only played 10-15 minutes of the last quarter. But long story short, he came on, kicked a goal, and he was everywhere. When he came on, within 5 minutes, I reckon the ball got kicked to him like 5 or so times inside the forward 50. He marked it a few times. I think he only got 1 goal, had the opportunity to kick 2 or 3. So he looks pretty good. I'm not sure how his fitness is going to be for a full game, but yeah, Bombers fans absolutely stoked to have him back. And yeah, Bombers, great win there for Essendon for round 1. I don't think they've had a round 1 win in quite a while either, so that would get them up and about and very, very optimistic about 2023. Alrighty guys, so that is my 9 winners and losers for round 1. Let me know what you guys think about this this video, this style. I want to hopefully do this every single week, and I encourage you guys to let me know your winners and losers down below as well. Anything you think I missed out on. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you smack that like button. If we could hit 25 likes in this video, that would be absolutely phenomenal. And as well, as I said at the start of this video, guys, majority of you are not subscribed. So if you are watching, make sure you hit that big red button down below. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you guys in my next video. Bye-bye.